In the past 2 days, we have established the term luck in a spiritual sense that is different from the materialistic approach. Whether it's a spiritual one or a material one, it is definitely something that we are all wishing for. Luck is something that we all wish for. We have also established, and luck is some kind of a force to make things happen. Ideally without much effort. As a follower of the Buddha, eventually we should be looking for spiritual luck or merit. Temporarily, we may wish for good health, longevity, success in all kinds of worldly life, but even that we wish so that our spiritual luck or the spiritual path gets materialized, so to speak. Yesterday we talked a little bit about how this luck or this merit, especially the spiritual one, is innate. It's not something that you actually have to look from outside. Look outside. You can actually something that you can discover within yourself. I don't know how much what scope or what capacity we have managed to understand some of these things that we have been discussing past few days. Because based on some of the things that we discuss, it is also possible that if the spiritual luck is arising, all kinds of material luck can also go disarray. You can really, your life, worldly life can go upside down. And that may be the indication that the spiritual luck is blooming. So, this is something that you have to keep in mind. Like the great many followers of the Kadamba tradition, such as Atisha's followers, many of these practitioners, for them, a misfortune is like a music to the ears. But such kind of approach really requires a certain bravery, courage, and that's rare, not that easy. What we are trying to hope is like at the least maybe 50% material luck and this 50% spiritual luck. And then in about a few years' time, 60% spiritual luck, and then 40% material luck. And then after a few years, 80%, so on and so forth. And that's acceptable. There's nothing wrong with that. Buddha himself said that like Buddha's teaching is like feeding a child. When the child is very, very young, a solid food cannot be digested. So you have to sort of make it soluble for a small baby. And then as the child is growing, then you gradually feed this child more solid and as the child is becoming more and more independent, then you give more dramatic foods. If you look at the stages of the teachings that Buddha offered, it's exactly like that. First, he offered us the teachings on Four Noble Truths. Very soluble, not hard food. Very soluble. Then he began to give us really dramatic food, which is the emptiness and the Buddha nature. So, the reason why I'm telling you this is because today we are going to talk about methods of accumulation of merit or the luck. I will focus more on two angles, on Mahayana and the Tantrayana. They must really try to combine both Mahayana and the Vajrayana, and that's so important. But methods are infinite. I can't really go through every one of them, and it's not even necessary. I want to outline few, those that are really, I would say, crucial, almost, indispensable. So we all want a luck. And when we have the luck, we want the luck to remain. And we like to have that kind of luck in every aspect of our life. So we like to multiply our luck. So for this, one most indispensable thing is we need a container for the luck. You need something like a bag or a cup or a plate or somewhere to put this luck, some kind of a bank where you can deposit the luck. And this, by the way, the container is what we call taking vow. You have to take a vow. Not necessarily every kind of vows that is prescribed by the Buddha. That's not even, that's not even advisable. So some form of a vow is absolutely crucial. It's crucial, indispensable. Otherwise, your luck is like, if you have precious things, it's like throwing in the water. It will dissolve and carried and scattered immediately. I don't want to be too philosophical here because actually, the reason why a vow acts as a container for a luck is very, very sophisticated, very interesting. When we say container, I don't know what's in your head, but a container always has one character, definitely one character. Among many, there's one specific character, which is a container has this, character or element that keeps things together. Like a cup, for instance, is like it has some sort of a valley. It's some sort of a depth where when you pour the water, then it keeps together. There's a sort of protection. Whereas if I pour some water on this table, it's all going to go here and there. But if I pour water in a cup, then it holds together. So the vow, what vow does is it has the element of holding together. And then the way it functions is a very, very general example. If I sort of give you a very general example. For instance, right now, you and me, we don't go around killing anyone. Well, not necessarily, just, we don't go around killing anyone because, it's too costly to kill people. And, it's troublesome, we are so lazy to do that. It's such a troublesome work. It's not like plucking a flower from a garden, it's a job. It involves a lot of planning and it's difficult. So we are not going around killing anyone, not because we are so compassionate, just because, we don't kill. And same thing, we don't go around stealing, all the time. And we don't go around telling lies all the time. Most of the time we do, but, not all the time. Sometimes we tell the truth. When we don't go around killing anyone now, of course we don't accumulate bad karma, of course not. But we also don't necessarily create good karma. We're just not killing because we are lazy, that's it. We are not necessarily creating a good karma of not killing. But let's say if you take a vow that I shall not kill, from then on, while you are sleeping, while you are drinking, while you are not killing like this, you accumulate luck, good karma of not killing all the time. So this is how a vow works. So it's crucial that you take some vow. And I'm not saying that you should all, of course, I encourage you to become monk or nun, but I'm not saying that you should take a monk's or nun's vow, not like that. But whatever, whatever that is possible within your capacity. And I really strongly advise you not to take too many vows, which you will end up breaking. I would suggest something like maybe not killing. That's very possible, right? You will not kill, so might as well take not killing vow. And maybe not stealing, that maybe is also slightly, that's maybe more difficult than not killing, but actually much more difficult than killing. All these pirated movies and, those illegal downloading. Oh my God, those are stealing. You can take a vow of not lying, but wow, that is a difficult one. Many times you think you are telling the truth, but actually you are lying. It's so difficult, that one. And unless you have become impotent, I don't think you should take a vow of not having sex also. So just, you decide, you know your situation. Well, by all means, if you can do a lot of these things, by all means, take it all. Oh, by the way, you can also do like this. You can also take all the vows for just 2 days. That's also possible. You take today until tomorrow sunrise. Like that you can do. And this tradition exists in the Mahayana. And this is so important practice. I really encourage you to do this. And so much merit, so much merit. Do you want a luck? No, this is a big, big luck creator. I'm sure many, many Mahayana monasteries, they offer this Panchashila, practice, like weekend, I don't know. You can also take like long time, like a week or a month. Anyway, here basically what I want to tell you is that the vow acts as a container. Accompanying this, you also need discipline. Once you take this vow, you should be disciplined. And discipline, necessary of discipline, especially in the modern world, modern life, in a stressful places, in big cities like this, so important. Because if you don't have a discipline, your mind will act like a spoiled child. When you are lucky and when you are, everything's going right with you, because you are not disciplined, when things are going right, you overdo it and you don't appreciate. That's what happens when you don't have a discipline. And when things goes wrong, when you are unlucky, then again you lose everything. You lose it. You lose your emotion. You lose your temper. You lose basically your composure. When a situation hits you, if you even lose a little bit of composure, it can lead to loss of. It can lead to more downfalls. So, again, discipline has to be something that which you can upkeep within your capacity, not overly doing it. Okay, so now, with the right motivation, especially with the bodhicitta, you give birth to the merit or the luck. I guess more precisely speaking, you discover that luck. You take a particular vow so that this merit can be kept in this vessel. You nurture, maintain, and guard this merit from downfalls through discipline. With these, you can now apply all sorts of, standard conventional method of accumulation of merit and also uncommon methods of accumulation of merit. Any kinds of philanthropic activities, charity activities, and Buddha, among all these sort of within all the dualistic virtuous activities, Buddha said the supreme most important virtuous deed is saving the life. Saving the life, rescuing the life, paying the ransom for somebody's life, and more indirectly discipline oneself by engaging in an activity that will cause less destruction of somebody's life, such as becoming vegetarian. And therefore, even joining some kind of vegetarian activist group and distributing flyers about saving the lives. In all this, you should remember, if all these activities are accompanied with a bodhicitta, then whatever you do, your activities have become path to the enlightenment. Even though we may not be able to always remember the bodhicitta, making sure that whatever the activity we are doing to accumulate merit, that it is not going to boost our ego, that it is not going to attract envy or jealousy and competitive mind from others. Basically, like the great many bodhisattvas have advised us, when we do non-virtuous deeds, we should try not to hide. When we do virtuous deeds, we should try to be, non-exhibitive. Now, these common activities, such as charity, philanthropic activities, also even including, like ecological, saving the earth, etc. These are, common, what I call common virtuous activities. Very important, really very important. And to accumulate more uncommon ones, then what we do is all these virtuous activities, we do it under the umbrella of the triple gem, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And we do all these kind of philanthropic activities with the aim or with the support of taking refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. With the support of taking refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. We categorize this as an uncommon virtuous because at this point, whatever you are doing, the virtuous activity, it is now gearing towards the wisdom because of the support and the connection to the Triple Gem. And then, of course, if it is accompanied by the bodhicitta, we are talking about a complete Mahayana path. And not only the relative bodhicitta, but actual understanding of the ultimate bodhicitta, then really the path has become very, very supreme path. When you can give a beggar some food without any connection with the bodhicitta, that has a virtue, that has a merit. But if you give the same beggar same food with aspiration to enlighten all sentient beings, plus knowing that whatever you do, the action, the agent, the object to whom you give, they're all an illusion, not truly existing, then that meager act of giving some food to a beggar has become what we call paramita, which is like a perfection, the perfection action. Now, as for the varieties of methods, I'm sure you know, I don't have to go through here, because it's infinite. To name just a few. Even to going to a shop and buy a Buddha statue, with a sincere motivation, you have the merit of making a body of the Buddha, because basically you are buying one. So you are making it, producing a Buddha. Rupakaya is his body. Suddenly will manifest in your room. Even though we may not be able to understand the whole scriptures, trying to read them, having a scripture inside the house, venerating them, all has merit. Lamp, flowers, incense, prostrations, exposing one's misdeeds in front of the imagined Buddhas and the symbolic Buddhas, such as the statue you have, supplicating the Buddhas to turn the will of the Dharma, supplicating the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to remain in the samsara, rejoicing good deeds and a good result of others instead of envying it. And then, of course, lastly, dedicating all the merit to sentient beings. All of these are Mahayana's way of accumulation of merit, and they are what we call skillful means. They are considered skillful means because they do not involve too much time, they do not involve too much, stress or, too much hardship, yet they accumulate infinite amount of merit. And then on top of that, one can also apply the Mahayana's path of 6 paramitas, if one can. And among the six paramitas, I will encourage you highly contemplation and the wisdom. And because only through the contemplation one will manage to tame our mind. This is what Shantideva said, apart from taming, training the mind, what other discipline is necessary? So training the mind is utmost crucial. And then, this is, I just want to sort of point out, remembering, because I think this is something that you may be familiar, many of you may be familiar with this, so that's why I wanted to kind of point out, remembering the names and remembering the names of the Buddha, and remembering the place of the Buddha has so much merit, such as the Buddha Amitabha. And this is something that is very engraved in the Chinese society. So something that you should really cultivate and not lose it. You know, there's many reasons why the Amitabha and his land, remembering them, is so beneficial. These Buddhas, when they were bodhisattvas, they each make different aspirations. Every one of them, they have a slightly different aspirations. They all are aiming towards a certain, they have a different aspiration. Like for instance, the Shakyamuni Buddha, his aspiration was to appear on this earth when sentient beings are, lifespan of the sentient beings are not so long. When the lifespan of the human beings are fairly kind of like 100 years, like short, basically. Yeah, Buddhists have their own different aspirations. So the Amitabha, long before he became Buddha, when he was a bodhisattva, he had one specific aspiration. His aspiration was whoever heard his name and whoever fantasized his land, may they all be connected to enlightenment or achieve enlightenment. And that is a very powerful aspiration. So, because of his aspiration, it's like because of his aspiration, and now his aspiration is kind of being tapped into, like by our effort of remembering his name and fantasizing his land. When this happens, then this cause and condition gives birth to bodhicitta, and for those who are fortunate, definite enlightenment. Tap into. What do you mean by tap into? Tap into, like he has an aspiration like that, which is waiting like electric power. There should be a tap into that. So later, as there was some request also, but I'm going to give you the transmission of aspiration to wake up ourselves in the Amitabha realm. It's a liturgy that is extracted from the Amitabha Sutra by great scholar called Raga Ase. One specific reason why I want to do this is because in this skeptical modern world, such practice of, like remembering the Buddha's name and remembering the land of the Buddha may sound very religious and blind faith oriented. And I have heard that the practice of Pure Land is so important in the Chinese society, and I really wish that this Pure Realm, Pure Land practice survives and flourishes. Is so important. It must be, encouraged. Now for the Vajrayana. Everything what I just said applies. It's still, we have to base on that. So the Vajrayana, as I've told you, is a wisdom-oriented path. It's like snake traveling in a bamboo tube. It only has two, it could go up or it could go down. So it's a very tricky. It's like playing with a fire. But nevertheless, it is the teaching of the Buddha. And some of it, as unbelievable as it sounds, it is still the wisdom of the Buddha. And those who wish to hear, they should hear it. And some of them can be very, very incredible, cannot really chew it. A small, narrow-minded cannot really chew Vajrayana. It's too tough. For instance, if I tell you, during the break, you should go to the shops and, have confidence that you are a deity and buy all those, lipsticks, whatever, for yourself, not for anyone, for yourself, like tie on those clothes, buy them. You are accumulating so much merit. Now, would you believe this?
Tie? What? Tie?
Buy clothes.
Oh, clothes.
Tie, lipsticks, eat a good food. That's like, because usually when we think about a spiritual path, we always think in terms of asceticism. We have to get hungry. We have to shave our eyebrow. Or, we have to sit in this kind of cold room. Like penance, needs. If you don't feel penance, then it's not a spiritual path. Self-flagellation, we have to hit ourselves. If a Lama suddenly says, go to the shopping, go, buy lipsticks, buy nice shoes, if you can afford, go to the nice restaurants, eat good food, and, as long as you remain in this, constant awareness of being a deity, you accumulate so much, much, much more merit than serving tens and thousands of Buddhas. It's just incredible. Cannot chew this. So this kind of a dramatic way of making luck, I'm not going to talk today because you will not chew it. You will not understand it. Even me, I can't understand. I can't accept. I kind of know how to talk about it, but to accept is difficult. So I will downgrade ourselves. In the Tantrayana also have many levels. So some of the slightly chewable, slightly digestible tantric method I can discuss here. So in the so now what we are saying is how to create luck in tantra, right? Well, if you have so much debt, you will never be lucky. So first we have to clear the debt. And debt we have so much. This life alone, how many of someone else's legs have gone inside our mouth? In some cases, the whole body. So much debt. So if you have a debt, no matter what you have, gold teeth, Rolex watch, I don't know, all of those things does not necessarily belong to you. They belong to someone else. So we need to purify these debts. Again, there's so many methods of doing that. And out of that, just one is called Sang and Sur, which is basically tantric wisdom of using the smoke as an offering to clear make offering to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but also to clear the karmic debt. And this is, again, another transmission I will give you right after the Amitabha prayers. And it's a wisdom path, because what you are burning is a handful of rice or, I don't know, something very small, but you visualize, you multiply this offering substance into infinite amount. You offer to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. You also offer to all the sentient beings, and especially those whom you have karmic debt. Then, and all the, I'm sure some of you may certainly get excited in wanting to do this. And I'm sure there'll be bombardment of millions of questions. I have no time to answer those. And there's someone called Sito, you can ask him. Then there are other methods, like what do you call it? Where there's something called Gana Chakra offering, which is much higher level. That one is again undigestible method, Gana Chakra offering. So I'll just mention the name. But I think what many of you need to hear is the wealth deities, because that's what we have been discussing, remember? Like we need a luck and therefore we buy those or get those vases and stuff like this. So how does these things work? So this is what we are going to discuss a little bit. Actually, the clearing the karmic debt methods is really good in order to prepare the invocation of the prosperity through the practice of Kubera, Zambala, Basudharani, all kinds of wealth deities. Bodhisattvas manifest just like the Amitabha who aspired a specific aspiration. There were many bodhisattvas who also have different, other aspirations, such as, you can say, like a Basudharani or Zambala, who has aspiration to benefit sentient beings through, using this, connection of longing for wealth and giving the blessing of the wealth and then gradually bringing them into the path to the enlightenment. So there is many bodhisattvas like that. Like Manjushri is almost always associated with wisdom, Avalokiteshvara, the compassion, Samantabhadra for aspiration, Siddhigarbha for protection. It's, I think the Chinese, they practice a lot with a lot of hands. They are also, sought after by protecting small kids, children. But, you have to know that it doesn't mean that one bodhisattva is only capable for one thing, such as Manjushri is only good with the wisdom and not the rest. That's not the way to understand. Each and every one of them are everything. Then there is, for instance, the types of Zambalas, several different types, whose aspiration, who acts as a sort of a catalyst, like a path to enlightenment through generating the prosperity. But all this, it's important that you practice with a firm, approach, and a firm, firm attitude of taking refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And then on top of that, a firm determination of the bodhicitta. And then, equally important is to really confidence on the deities, such as the Zambala. And Zambala, when we say Zambala, it's not just one particular being called Zambala, but it is a manifestation of the Buddha. But also not to be understood as some sort of a almighty creator or a god. Ultimate Dzambala is none other than your own Buddha nature. And then, relatively, Dzambala comes in many different forms: black, yellow, red, green, with one single head, multi-heads, so many different varieties. And not only as a form, as a, human form, but even as a mantra. So the deity, Dzambala, in the form of the mantra, and not necessarily just the long mantras, but even a syllable as a Dzambala itself. So these are the some of the ocean-like method of creating the merit or the luck according to the Tantra. Okay, so we will take a break. And there has been lots of requests to do the refuge ceremony. So we will do this refuge. And
What time?
Those who want to just observe, they can just observe. They don't have to take refuge. So please don't feel obliged that you have to join this. Okay. We will now do just the questions and answers for time being.
This question is from a small boy. Rinpoche, do you like potatoes? Do you get nervous before lectures? What is your favorite Buddha? How do I get good karma?
I'm beginning to like the potatoes again. Once I hated potato because for almost 6 years, all I was fed was potato, rice, and dal. My favorite Buddha keeps on changing. And the best way to accumulate good karma is to be kind. Not only just before the teaching, I get nervous. I'm a nervous wreck. I'm nervous with lots of things. I'm nervous in the car. I'm nervous whenever my inbox, when I receive the emails, whenever it says urgent. And many, endless reasons to be nervous. Okay?
If the majority of the wishes I hope, as said in the book Secret, will not be fulfilled, why our wishes could come true if we pray to our Guru or Buddha?
Actually, to be more precise, it's like this. When you pray to the Buddha, 100 things you wish will not come true, and 1,000 things that you dare not wish will come true. Okay?
Rinpoche, it seems that you are very nice to some of your students. You give them more time, but you are not so nice to some other student and give them less time. It seems it's favoritism, isn't it? Why is that?
It proves what I said yesterday, that I'm not enlightened. This is an important question because my teacher, he has the opposite experience. Everybody thinks he is the favorite of him. So this is a very good demonstration.
Rinpoche, please indicate how to balance the worldly charity activities and the Buddha Dharma practice. As an example, my job is charity related, but I have put too much time with it. I didn't practice meditation, etc. How to turn my mind to the Dharma practice, and please give practical method. Thank you.
I suggest you to contemplate, give some time for contemplation every day, even few minutes. And then I suggest you to explore the words of the Buddha, especially related to the wisdom, such as the Vajrayana Sutra. I suggest you to, even though you may not understand, everything is an illusion at the moment, at the least what you can do is try to convince yourself and educate yourself, thinking that everything what we think is just our own perception. That's a very good one.
In your book, Almost Buddhist, you said, "For the Prince of India, without whom I still couldn't know, I am a wanderer." So why are you calling yourself a wanderer?
Because I'm a wanderer. And even worse than wanderer, I'm wandering aimlessly most of the time, and I'm wandering without any control most of the time. If I trace back to what I have done, like today, most of the time I've done it aimlessly and wanderingly.
Rinpoche, can you explain about the Zen teaching of the sixth patriarch, saying that the mind is the Buddha? What is the meaning? And also, what is the meaning of phenomena being Buddha? How does it relate to?
I don't have enough merit to really explore and hear the teachings of the sixth patriarch as much as I aspire to. But nevertheless, it is very much this classic Mahayana's teaching. If you have an ice cube, you don't need to look for water. Just wait, and then the ice will melt into water. I believe the sixth patriarch is saying, if you have the mind, that is the Buddha. You just have to let it melt. But most of the time, we are too busy trying to freeze it.
If a woman gets pregnant accidentally and have an abortion, what karma will that bring? Is there any way to resolve this?
It is the karma of taking a life of somebody or some being. Of course, there's a lot of ways to purify this, but keep in mind that the purifying methods should not be used as a license to do it again. You can't just keep on aborting and applying that method. As for the purification method, there is plenty, so many. The best is through the bodhicitta, dedicating the merit to this being, releasing the life, etc.
I always explain to people why I become a vegetarian. I told them not to kill so many lives. When you eat the meat, they are life and with emotion. However, friends said, the plants are also life. How do you know that they do not have emotion? I do not know how to answer them.
Well, if plants are obviously being, like animate, then yes, we have a problem. We can't also take their life. This is going to be complicated to answer because so-called, the definition of living being is very, very vague. we don't know what we mean by living being, living organism, because anyway, in Buddhism, living being is one that has mind. Plants, I don't know, they may be living beings as in the scientific term, but whether they have mind or not, we are not so sure. If they have mind, yes, definitely, we should not mourn our lawn. But on a gross level, on a most obvious level, the grasses, plants, vegetables, seemingly they don't have an intention, emotions, and like dislikes and likes and hope and fear and all the sort of syndromes or character of a being, of a sentient being.
Dear Rinpoche, last night when I returned home, with my mind full of your words of luck, I found policemen standing in the door as my house has been robbed badly. It appears to me that a materialistic loss comes right after a spiritual gain. This is my first time to hear your teaching. And now I am still in a mood of shock. How should I contemplate on this situation?
With this understanding, with this much understanding, and the fact that you still come back to receive teaching of luck today, I rejoice this bravery.
Should the perception of luck be different in accordance to the levels of self-realization of the three kayas?
Well, that's quite a profound question. I hope it is not an accidental profound question. Yes. Good luck of a first Bhumi Bodhisattva is a bad luck of the second Bhumi Bodhisattva. So on and so on. Once you reach to the Buddhahood, no more luck. Because as long as you need a luck, then that means you are dependent. So the whole point of practicing the Buddha Dharma is so that we can reach to a place where there's no more luck. Or unluck, of course.
Can Rinpoche give Bodhisattva vow this time?
I will do a short prayer later. We can't really perform the longer, proper Bodhisattva vow ritual. I will do a very short aspiration. Since you asked, I have to do it because otherwise I won't fall asleep tonight for refusing the Bodhisattva vow. Just trying to answer as many questions as possible by making the answers very short.
Do we must practice four foundations to get enlightenment? If yes, why?
I don't know whether you have to practice four foundation, four foundation to get enlightenment. But what you have to have is you have to have taken refuge, and you have to generate the bodhicitta, and you have to purify your defilements. You have to accumulate merit. And if you are a busy being, and if you feel like getting the blessing quite quick, then you have to do the Guru Yoga also. So call it a four foundation, but four foundation, as you ask the question, the four foundation, I don't know, what do you mean by four foundation? But what I've just said, these are necessary. Okay?
What is the difference between understanding emptiness, enlightenment, and going to the Pure Land?
Going to the Pure Land, understanding the emptiness, and?
Enlightenment.
That's a very good question. I like this. They're same. Yes, they're They're very, enlightenment, pure realm, and what?
Going to pure enlightenment and understanding emptiness.
You can say that they're exactly the same.
It is easier to have compassion towards those less fortunate than us, but much more difficult to feel that for those who are more fortunate than oneself, and sometimes even feel jealousy towards them. How do I change this attitude?
Well, right at the beginning of describing the luck I've told you, it really depends on what do you mean by fortune. Actually, you should have more. If you are a Dharma practitioner, I think the billionaires, the millionaires, those rich and powerful, they are the most, they are the least fortunate beings. Unless, of course, some of them, they have interest in truth, in the, love and compassion. Most of these so-called, what you call fortunate ones, they have no time and no interest in the truth.
Rinpoche, even though amongst all the vows, the vow of not to kill is the most important, but in real life, if there is a big beehive growing bigger and bigger in the balcony of your home, how can one ignore it? If I hire someone to dispose of it, who bears the bad karma? On myself, is it correct? But if I don't do anything, how do I deal with this ever-growing, huge beehive?
Well, first, yes, you will have to bear the karmic consequences. And then second, how serious are you with the bodhisattva path? If you are, move yourself. Because that's what you are aspiring for. Anyway, for all we know, we are, maybe on their way, like we are the one who's building a house where their house is supposed to be. Now, thank you for reminding me this. I had to do a few things about this beehive business recently. And yes, this has been nagging in my head many times, sometimes really actually caused sleepless night. I am, planning to, make some lamp offerings and, some of these practices in holy places because recently I was in Sri Lanka in the forest, and because I was doing something completely unwholesome activity of making a film, during that time I think 2 of beehives got disturbed, like noise and, like people smoking, and I don't think those bees liked it.
Rinpoche, within the 6 realms, everything is due to cause and condition. How do we get rid ourselves of these cause and conditions?
Only, and the whole point of practicing the Dharma.
In the afternoon, when Rinpoche transmit the prayer mantra, I made a vow not to eat meat anymore. But unfortunately, I forgot and had meat. Now I feel so stressed that I am having stomach pain. What should I do? How can I remedy the situation? Because when I make the vow, I did it with the intention to liberate or save my deceased father.
I think you know the answer, but I want to add something. The fact that you realize you forgot, that you should now that remembering that you forgot. You should now use this as a seed of awareness. In the beginning, I think we only end up remembering we forgot again and again. And then after a while, we actually don't forget. And that's how we mature our mindfulness.
I prostrate to Rinpoche. Rinpoche once said that mindfulness is the most minute or following. How can one stop this? Is there a way to practice shamatha?
You mean people have least interest in mindfulness? I guess so. That's what you're saying. Well, that is, understandable because lack of enthusiasm for mindfulness is what makes what strengthens the ignorance.
Rinpoche, can we change our vow from time to time? That is, I took a vow before not to eat certain food. Can I switch to something else? If yes, any steps need to be taken before the change? If we accidentally break our vow, can we recite Vajrasattva to fix it? Thank you.
This is why I was suggesting earlier you should take a vow that is within your capacity and within your ability. Never attempt to take big vows.
Rinpoche, I once had a very, very dear friend who was a Buddhist practitioner, but due to some misunderstanding, we are no longer in touch with each other. She said she will from now on only be friends with Buddhist practitioner. Because I'm not a Buddhist, will this affect her practice? Can you please help me to wish her well, bless her to achieve her practice? Thank you.
Next one.
What is motivation and where does it come from?
Motivation is a mental factor. By nature, it is a dualistic nature. It's a subjective and objective. And during the path, the motivation for the easy to categorize you can categorize motivation into like negative good virtuous motivation and non-virtuous motivation. Also neutral. And the way to tell what makes one a non-virtuous is quite complicated, but just generally anything that you think will create a pain to somebody or to yourself, with that motivation, if you have that kind of motivation, it's non-virtuous. Pain, giving result of pain. During the path, we try to develop right motivation, good motivation. For one thing, right motivation calms your mind. Bad motivation stirs your mind. So this effect of calming the mind through the right motivation is used as a igniter, that which will ignite wisdom.
Rinpoche, I have been fortunate to receive Buddha Dharma teachings. There are different lineages. How do we practice in this case?
Whatever inspires you, basically, but I suggest you to study first. Because the Buddha Dharma, the whole path has, they are all equal. The one is not lesser than the other.
During the teaching of words of my perfect teacher, you have said, even if there is only just a glimpse of virtuous thought arise in us, it is worth to celebrate with a cup of wine. However, in the Zhenjian, the Almost Buddhist website, you said our virtuous thoughts, our good deeds are just for satisfying our strong ego. So, whenever we have virtuous thought or have done good deeds, how we should deal with that? So as not to have any conflict between the above two.
Probably, because I don't remember what I've said and what I have written. But having said that, I still feel both are true. And this is very related to the previous question. Yes, virtuous thoughts and actions virtuous thoughts is so rare. It is worthy of a celebration. But it is possible that the virtuous thoughts, if you are not careful, the non-virtuous thoughts will creep in and make use of these virtuous thoughts into some kind of a ego-boosting method.
There are many more.
Okay, maybe 3 more.
3 more, okay. If reincarnation is the projection of the eighth consciousness, and Buddha was born 2,500 years ago, that means he has reincarnated many lives before he was born. Does that mean sentient beings existed when Earth was born, or all mind consciousness was caused by cause and condition? Or is it any independent existence? Or is it an independent existence?
Buddha, bound by time and place, such as 2,500 years ago, India, all of these is manifestation Buddha. We use the term Nirmanakaya. And when we talk about Nirmanakaya, yes, Buddha himself, taught about his previous incarnations. It's clearly taught in the Jatakamala Sutra. When we talk about the Nirmanakaya, manifestation Buddha, Buddha himself recalled his previous incarnations in the Jatakamala Sutra. Whether the beings exist before the earth and so on, this question is, I think, very evolution-oriented question. Buddhists don't like the evolution questions because Buddhists don't believe in time. Because Buddhists think time is the biggest lie. It is as stupid as when a parent tells to a kid, long, long time ago, whatever that means. So whatever I answer is not going to work, basically. Okay? Two more.
In the traditional reward Sangche practice, the practice is to be done in the daytime. Why so?
No, not really.
Go
Weekly, monthly, yearly is fine. Hourly is also good.
Okay. Does it build up dualism of day and night? So you have answered.
Are you saying that it should be practiced only in the daytime or something like that?
Daytime or nighttime?
It doesn't matter really. Whenever you can. One advice I will give you. Never limit your Dharma practice by time and place, because you will end up never practicing the Dharma. If any monks, lamas say Reward Sangche can be only done in the morning, they are lying. They have not understood. Because there is no such thing as Buddhas and Bodhisattvas only works in the morning.
What is devotion? How can we have proper devotion towards the Guru and not end up as attachment?
That's a very important question. So I'd like to answer this properly, and then with this we will conclude. I think it all comes back to the motivation. And your motivation, it all boils down to your attitude towards your life. So this is what I was saying yesterday. You have to look at this worldly life, material life, as something that cannot be fixed permanently. You can fix temporarily, like a scotch tape, remember? This, you have to get it. I don't know how to explain this, but I think it's like if you have a fatal disease, like a stomach cancer or like a really, not curable cancer disease, then with that cancer disease, going to a garden or listening to a concert, there's that bell of you are finished, basically. That is ringing all the time, and yet you are looking at the beautiful flowers, nice music, hang around with friends and families. That's crucial. It's difficult to have, though. This kind of attitude is so difficult to have, because we always think that this life can be fixed. Long time ago, I remember using the 3 strawberry example. Our life is like trying to stack up 3 strawberries on the top of each other. It's so difficult to, put them on the top of each other and stay. But the problem is sometimes the second strawberry sort of sits on the first one temporarily, and that always gives us a hope. That is necessary. Huh? I'm trying to answer you. Because when you have that, the only thing then you will be looking for is enlightenment. Because nothing else matters. With this, you try to look for the Guru. Yes, as a deluded being, we may end up falling in love with this Guru's smell, shape of his fingers. I don't know, like, you fall for this Guru as a father, as a brother, as a companion, as someone to talk to. This happens, of course. As a deluded being, we have that baggage. But if you have that bell ringing, remember that bell I was telling you, you are finished, cannot be fixed. This will always take care that you always, maneuver yourself towards the Guru as the guide to the enlightenment, instead of just a companion and the object of attachment. And this applies to all the Guru, concept in the Mahayana and also in the Sharvakayana. And of course, the Vajrayana. In the Vajrayana, in the Tantric tradition, the Guru is everything. I'll just like to add here that, of course, then there's a questions of how to find the right Guru, all of that. I would suggest you to spend more time in studying and supplicating to Buddha and the Bodhisattvas. I think you should count on being found more than searching. And it's, when it happens, it will then, logic doesn't apply. It will just fall into the place. And we also have the questions about, what kind of Guru? What is a right Guru? Now that is so difficult to explain, because I wish there is some kind of a menu or some kind of a, description of what you should be avoiding and what you should be looking for. But There are many in the Mahayana and the Tantric texts that descriptions of the right teacher. Someone who has the compassion, someone who has the knowledge, all that, so many. But many of them are very subjective, This is why if you have enough hearing of the teaching and the contemplation, analysis, it will always help. So, if you happen, in the Tantric tradition, if you happen to encounter such a guru, then you should take this person even more importantly than even the thousands and thousands of Buddhas. Okay, so we will now conclude with some sort of a short, taking the short form of taking the bodhicitta vow, so to speak. And this time, please visualize all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in front of you. Especially, please visualize Manjushri and Avalokiteshvara. And you should have this attitude that you don't know this infinite and just, like vast and infinite ways of the Bodhisattva. Their wish, their intention, and their action. You don't know. But what you can do is you can aspire to emulate Bodhisattvas such as Manjushri and Avalokiteshvara. Okay, so please repeat what I say. Sanje Chodam. Soji Sonamla. Janchuk Bardu. Dani Japsuchi. Dagi Jinso. Jibi Sonamji. Dola Penchir. Sanje Dubarsho. Basically, this is some kind of aspiration bodhicitta. Okay, one more time. Sanje Chodam. Soji Sonamla. Janchuk Bardu. Dani Japsuchi. Dagi Jinso. Jibi Sonamji. Dola Penchir. Sanje Dubarsho. Sanje Chodam. Soji Sonamla. Janchuk Bardu. Dani Japsuchi. Dagi Jinso. Jibi Sonamji. Dola Penchir. Sanje Dubarsho. Janju Samje Rinpoche Majibanu Jijibani Kone Majibanu Jijibani Kone Kondo Pevar Janju Samje Rinpoche Majibanu Jijibani Kone Kondo Pevar Show. So with this we have finished with aiming to incorporate understanding the Buddha Dharma through, mundane concepts such as luck. I will aspire and wish you luck from now till enlightenment. May you have luck to may you have the luck to have proper time to eat. May you have luck to be ignored by your friends. May you have a luck to see lots of springs. May you also have a luck to see lots of death. And more importantly, I wish you luck to appreciate and encounter and appreciate the words of the Buddha. So that when you die, you will have no fear of losing which you actually never own. Now, as everything is a dependent arising. Cause and condition matters. So, I'm going to give you seed syllable of Zambala written on a piece of paper, which I hope and aspire that it will become cause and condition to bring all the spiritual and material luck. And behind the letter Dzam, which is the seed syllable, there's also 4 animals. Those 4 animals represents the 4 mindfulness, which should be the source of your luck. So, but before you come here, I want to request you, and for some of you, this will be a big request, so hold your breath. If you have a children, and also if you are up to, well, it doesn't matter how old you are, but more importantly, I'm talking to parents who have children. I'm here to do the head hunting. I have this really incredible task that I have sort of stumbled myself into. I need translators. So if you can, yourself, if not, your children, please teach them good Chinese, English, and if possible, Tibetan. Chinese, very important. And when I say Chinese, I'm not talking about just the modern Chinese, but hoping that that you will or your kids will learn Chinese good enough to read the classic Tang Dynasty Chinese. Because this is not just coming from me. Some of the Rinpoches, such as Thubten Nyima Rinpoche, our aspiration is to translate Mahayana sutras that exist in the Chinese canon into Tibetan and many other languages. Now this is also, I'm asking for those who are planning to make babies. Even as you are beginning your act, please have this motivation. Okay, I have to make translators. And from English to Tibetan, all that. Okay, so I'm going to give you this seed syllable. Please do not prostrate. No need to do prostration. Just come and receive this and dedicate all this merit again to the prosperity and realization of the Buddha nature to everyone.